Yo, the pairing sheets are warm from the printer when my father draws a red line through my name. The marker squeaks across the briefing board, Nora Bell, Beverage Director. 42 staff members watch him erase me from the Critic's dinner 4 hours before the first pour. You're too inexperienced to serve this room, Daniel says. He hands my tables to Adrian Voss, the consulting sommelier he met 6 days ago. Then he tells me I'm fired. In my left hand, the cream-colored pairing packet is folded into thirds. My name is still printed on the final page. My father hasn't seen it. What I can't understand is why, after 11 months of trusting me with every bottle in his cellar, he looks relieved. The kitchen doors swing open behind him, releasing steam, fennel, and the metallic clatter of hotel pans. Someone's timer chirps. No one moves to silence it. Daniel caps the marker and sets it precisely beneath the board. The change is effective immediately, he says. Adrian will handle the wine briefing. Theo, adjust the floor chart. Theo Rains, our lead captain, is holding a stack of place cards against his chest. He doesn't look at Daniel. He looks at me. All of her tables? All of them. The Chen table, too? Daniel's jaw shifts, especially that one. There it is, not just my job. He wants Lydia Chen, the critic whose byline can fill a restaurant for 6 months, to believe I never existed. I set the pairing packet on the service console before my hands can wrinkle it. Executive chef Celia Mercado steps out from the kitchen, wiping her fingers on a side towel. She is 5 feet tall, built like a fire hydrant, and has never learned how to enter a room quietly. What the hell does effective immediately mean? She asks. It means we are simplifying the chain of command. You fired your beverage director before a 48-cover pairing dinner. I removed a point of instability. Celia stares at him. That's a fascinating description of your daughter. Chef, I say. She turns to me. Her face is furious enough that I almost laugh, which would be the worst possible thing I could do. Daniel picks up the packet I left on the console. He flips through the first 2 pages, seeing the course titles, bottle counts, and table positions. The final page remains folded underneath. You need to turn over your keys, he tells me. My cellar keys hang from a steel reel clipped inside my jacket. I release them. The reel zips back against my ribs with a sharp snap like it objects. Daniel holds out his palm. I place the keys in it. They are his keys. It is his restaurant. The fact has never felt so clean. Adrian stands near the bottle station in a charcoal suit that probably cost more than my monthly rent, though my rent is discounted because my apartment is directly above the old freight office. He has silver at his temples, a wine stain on one cuff, and the uneasy expression of a man who has walked into the wrong funeral but recognizes the deceased. Nora, he says, I wasn't told this was happening. Daniel answers for me. There's no reason to make it personal. Adrian's eyes flick toward him. You did invite her father. That gets a startled bark from Theo. He disguises it as a cough. For half a second, Daniel almost smiles. My father likes nerve when it comes from men he hasn't raised. Then his attention returns to me. The cellar inventory. Current, as of 11 this morning. Rack changes are logged in bin track and in the blue binder because the west wall tablet lost its connection again. The allocation contacts? In the vendor file. Passwords? Shared credentials are in the manager vault. My personal accounts are mine. His mouth tightens. He knows I've answered correctly. He also knows everyone else knows it. He lowers his voice. We can do the rest of this in my office. You started it here. The room becomes so still I can hear the ice shifting inside the seafood station. Daniel looks past me at the staff. His people. Some of them have worked for him since Bellwether opened in the restored depot 20 years ago. They know the way he can greet 4 tables on his path to fix a crooked sconce. They know he tastes every family meal, remembers every anniversary reservation, and once drove through a snowstorm because Mina Park had left her heart medication in the pastry locker. They also know he crossed my name out in red. All right, he says. Collect your personal things. You'll be paid through today, plus accrued vacation. We'll review what's applicable. It's on my last statement. This is not the time. It became the time when you fired me." Celia's mouth twitches, not a smile. More like she has bitten into something acidic and approves. Daniel gives me the look that used to mean we would finish the argument in private, where family rules applied and witnesses did not. I hold his gaze until he looks down at the pairing packet. "Adrian," he says. "Briefing starts in 10. Adrian doesn't move. I'll need to taste the 5th course again. The 5th pairing has been decided. Yes, that's why I need to taste it again. I leave before Daniel can see how much that small refusal helps. My office is really the northeast corner of the cellar, partitioned by glass that stops 3 feet short of the ceiling. In summer, the cooling unit makes phone calls impossible. In winter, I work wearing fingerless gloves. The cellar smells like cardboard, cork, and cold stone. 487 bottles sit in labeled racks, every neck turned so staff can read the vintage without pulling it. On the steel desk are my laptop, a half-eaten ginger candy, 2 black pens, and my mother's brass bone folder. It isn't valuable. It is a flat, tapered strip of brass, 6 inches long, with EB scratched near the rounded end. My mother used it in the pastry kitchen to crease parchment around chocolate boxes. After she died, I used it for pairing sheets because fingers leave soft folds, and soft folds never stack properly at service stations. I pick it up. The metal is cool and heavier than it looks. A knock lands on the glass. Theo comes in without waiting. Celia is considering manslaughter. She'll get over it by amuse-bouche. She says she won't. She has halibut for 48. She'll get over it. He closes the door behind him. "Did you know? No? That Voss was replacing you? I knew Dad wanted him in the room. I thought he was here as a second set of eyes. He asked me yesterday which server could pronounce Trockenbeerenhaus Lies. That's a reasonable question. He pronounced it wrong. He's from Connecticut." Theo leans against the desk, then immediately stands because the glass groans. "What happened?" 6 weeks ago, a man named Everett Sloan ate at table 12 and ordered the venison. He introduced himself as a real estate investor, which was technically true in the same way calling a shark a swimmer is technically true. His group had been buying minority stakes in destination restaurants. They provided capital, centralized purchasing, and phrases like scalable hospitality. Everett's wife owned Pilgrim's Gate Winery in Sonoma. 3 weeks after his visit, 12 bottles of their reserve Cabernet arrived with a handwritten note from Daniel. "Find a place for this at Chen dinner." I found a place. The storage shelf. "It's the Cabernet," I tell Theo. "That jammy thing?" Cassie called it blackberry cough syrup. Cassie drinks vanilla vodka. She can still detect sugar. The wine isn't bad. That would make things easier. It is polished, expensive, and built to dominate a room. It tastes like ripe black fruit, new oak, and a marketing budget. Besides Celia's smoked duck with sour cherry and charred radicchio, it turns the food bitter and makes the cherry taste canned. I had poured it for Daniel, Celia, and Adrian that morning. Celia said no before she swallowed. Adrian asked what had originally been planned. Our 2015 Lake Seneca Cabernet Franc. I had spent 4 months getting 6 bottles from a retired collector who stored them correctly and distrusted restaurants on principle. The wine smelled like violets, graphite, and dried herbs. It met the smoke without bullying the duck. Daniel tasted both wines. He chose Pilgrim's Gate. I wrote up my objection, I say. Theo winces. "You used the word objection. I used the phrase pairing conflict. Much sexier. I also said I wouldn't introduce it as my selection. There it is. There it is." Theo looks through the glass at the racks. "You could have poured the California wine and told the truth if Chen asked. And made Celia serve food we knew it hurt? No. And let Everett think his investment buys the list? No. And let Dad use my title to make it look like a professional decision." Theo sighs. "I'm trying to find the version where you still have health insurance." So am I. He looks at the apartment key beside my laptop. Unlike the cellar keys, this one belongs to me until the end of the month. The discount doesn't. "You can stay with me and Marcus," he says. The guest room mostly has exercise equipment we don't use. I have savings. How much? Enough that I don't need to inventory my poverty for you. 3 weeks, then. 6, if I develop a sudden love of lentils. Marcus makes a beautiful lentil soup. Marcus makes hot gravel. That is marriage. You compliment the gravel. My laugh comes out wrong, half a breath too late. Theo pretends not to hear the break in it. He picks up the ginger candy and drops it into the wooden wine box on the floor. What do you need? Make sure the Riesling for course 2 stays in the east reach-in, not the main ice well. 45 degrees, not 38. I wrote it down. Hold 1 bottle back. If there's cork variation, you'll need it. I wrote that down too. The cider glasses. Nora. I stop. We paid attention, he says. It is the kindest thing anyone could have said, and I hate him for getting it exactly right. I pack my 2 notebooks, the brass folder, my corkscrew, and the framed photo of my mother standing on Bellwether's loading platform with flour on her face. I leave the ginger candy. It came from the host stand's supply. When I step into the corridor, Adrian is waiting. I'm sorry, he says. You didn't fire me. I accepted your tables. You accepted a consulting fee. I assume it's a good one. It was. Was? He glances toward Daniel's office. Your father and I are renegotiating the definition of consulting. Despite myself, I like him a little. He holds out a hand. Your service notes. They're in the pairing packet. Daniel says he's having it reprinted. Then I hope the new ink improves the Cabernet. Adrian lowers his hand. For what it's worth, your original progression is excellent. It isn't worth what he wants it to be worth. He knows that. I know he knows. But it is worth something. Course 4 needs a short pour, I say. The cider is volatile. 2 ounces. Or the room will smell like an orchard fermenter by the time the duck lands. He nods once. No phone, no notebook. He remembers. I walk through the dining room carrying my box. Afternoon light stretches across the old railway floorboards. The tables are bare, except for small brass lamps and folded cream cards bearing Lydia Chen's name. Outside, florists unload buckets of white dahlias beneath the station clock. Daniel catches up with me at the front door. Nora. I keep my hand on the brass push plate. You don't have to make this ugly. I look back at the red marker in his shirt pocket. I didn't bring the marker. His face hardens, then softens so quickly it hurts more. Go upstairs. Rest. We'll talk tomorrow. Am I fired? Yes. Then I'm not resting in an apartment attached to your restaurant so you can summon me when a bottle breaks. That isn't what I meant. It's exactly what you meant. He checks the lobby before answering, an old hospitality reflex. Never let the guests see the machinery. This dinner affects 60 people's livelihoods, he says. I cannot allow your need for recognition to jeopardize it. My need for recognition. You want authority before you've learned when to bend. You mean when Everett Sloan wants his wife's wine on the menu. I mean when the restaurant needs capital. You could have said it was sponsored. And tell Chen we sold the pairing? I'm not the one selling it. That lands. His eyes go flat. He opens the door for me. The same polished gesture he offers every guest. You have always mistaken defiance for independence, he says. And you've always mistaken access for ownership. For 1 second, I see that I have struck somewhere below business. Then the station clock chimes 3, and Daniel Bell returns to service. Leave the apartment key by Friday, he says. Outside, the air smells like lake water and cut stems. A florist carrying dahlias steps around me without looking up. I put the wooden box in my car, sit behind the wheel, and open my laptop. My termination email takes 9 minutes. I confirm the time, list the keys returned, identify the inventory files, and attach the pairing revisions, distributor approvals, staff training schedule, and my written notice about Pilgrim's Gate. I copy Daniel, payroll, Celia, and our outside bookkeeper. At the bottom, I write, because my employment has ended, I will not be available for operational support during tonight's service. I read the sentence twice. Then I press send. 3 minutes later, my father texts, "We need the passcode for the West Wall tablet." I look through the windshield at Bellwether's tall windows. Inside, Adrian is gathering the staff around the briefing board. Daniel has wiped away the red line, but my name is gone with it. The tablet code is in the manager vault, exactly where I told him. I turn off my phone. On the service console behind Adrian, one original pairing packet remains folded into thirds. I turn it back on before I reach the apartment, not because I plan to answer, because Daniel has spent my whole adult life convincing me that ignoring him during service is the same as setting fire to the building. His text about the tablet is followed by another. The manager vault entry is outdated. It isn't. I changed the code Monday and watched him initial the update. I type that, then delete it. A third message appears while I'm standing on the narrow metal stairs. "Be reasonable, Nora." I put the phone in my pocket and climb. My apartment was once the station master's office. The floors tilt toward the tracks, freight trains make the glassware tremble at 2 a.m, and the shower takes 4 minutes to decide whether it believes in hot water. I love every stupid inch of it. There are 3 empty wine cases under the sink. I flatten them, tape the bottoms, and start packing books. I get through Burgundy, Piedmont, and half of Austria before my laptop chimes. The email is from Marlene, our outside bookkeeper. Daniel is copied. "Nora confirming today as your final day of active employment. Payroll will calculate all wages and applicable accrued leave. Per Daniel, your housing arrangement ends Friday at 5 p.m. Please coordinate return of the apartment key. Applicable again." I reply with my last 3 pay statements attached and the section of the employee handbook that defines accrued leave. I ask for the calculation in writing. Then I carry the first box downstairs. A delivery van is backed against the loading platform. Leah Santos stands inside it with one boot on a crate, arguing with a roll of packing tape. Leah represents 4 small Finger Lakes producers and 1 Spanish importer that she refuses to discuss before noon because, according to her, Albarino is a lunch wine and deserves boundaries. She has thick black curls, red glasses, and the permanent forearm bruises of someone who moves cases for a living. She sees my box. "No," she says. "Very strong opening." "No, put that back." I can't. "Why?" "I've been fired." She looks toward the restaurant. "By who?" "The owner." "I know Daniel owns it. I'm asking who fired you." "The owner, who is also my father." "That seems inefficient." She jumps down from the van. "When?" "About 40 minutes ago." "I just spoke to him." "Did he sound happy?" "He said you had stepped away because the pressure got to be too much. The cold moves through my jacket as if it has found a seam." Leah's expression changes when she sees mine. "That's not what happened." "No." "What happened?" I wouldn't claim Everett Sloan's Cabernet as my pairing. Good. It tastes like a piano fell into a blackberry bush. Cassie went with cough syrup. Cassie drinks frosting. Vanilla vodka. Same thing. She takes the box out of my arms and sets it on the platform. Daniel asked whether I could verify that Adrian sourced the Herman Riesling. "What did you say?" I said I could verify he didn't. I closed my eyes for a moment. The Herman family released only 36 bottles of their 2008 Reserve Riesling. I got 4 after spending a rainy Sunday helping Leah and Mrs. Herman inventory a collapsed storage rack. I didn't do it for the wine. Mrs. Herman had called me because her usual cellar hand was recovering from shoulder surgery, and leaving old bottles on the floor felt obscene. The allocation came later, with a note that said, "You'll know what to do with these." "Do you still have the emails?" I ask. "Of course." "And the invoice?" "Your name is on it as buyer. Bellwether paid." "I know who paid." That wasn't an accusation. It sounded like one because my father has been telling people I'm ungrateful since I was 23. Leah goes quiet. I rub my forehead. "Sorry. You got fired. I can survive one sharp sentence. I don't want you dragged into this. I'm delivering wine to a building where the owner is rewriting history before dinner. I think the dragging has begun." What are you delivering? She points to the cases in the van. Replacement Gruner for the reception. One bottle in the original order was seeping under the capsule. I checked those yesterday. And you caught it. This is the replacement you requested. Daniel hasn't canceled it. Either he forgot or he still expects my systems to carry him while he explains why I was too fragile to use them. Give it to Theo, I say. Get his signature. Not Daniel's? Theo receives floor stock. Keep the chain clean. Leah studies me. You're still protecting the restaurant. I'm protecting the record. That answer sounded rehearsed. It's 40 minutes old. The kitchen door opens. Daniel steps onto the loading platform without a coat. Leah, he says, we're waiting on that Gruner. She looks at me, then at him. I was told Theo needs to sign for it. I can sign. The purchase order lists Theo. Daniel's eyes settle on the box between us. Nora, a word. I'm moving. Now? You gave me until Friday. That does not mean you need to stage a spectacle during arrivals. There is no one on the platform except us and a crate of wine, but Daniel can find an audience in a locked closet. Leah pulls the replacement bottle from its case. I'm going to locate Theo. Daniel waits until the door closes behind her. You copied Celia on a payroll matter, he says. I copied her on my termination record. She manages my department's labor allocation. You don't have a department. You're right, Adrian does. His gaze shifts to the empty cases near the stairs. Did you give Leah your version? I told her you fired me after I refused to claim the Cabernet as my pairing. You make it sound transactional. It is transactional. Everett offers capital. You offer his wife a course. He has not asked for that. You wrote, Sloan expects placement on the sample sheet. That isn't the same thing. No, it's shorter. He exhales through his nose. Everett knows restaurants. He understands we have to make choices that support the larger business. Then he should understand why lying to a critic is a bad one. No one is lying. What are you calling the reprinted packets? Updated materials? Without my name, Nora, your name cannot remain on a service you are no longer executing. The service design is mine, and Bellwether paid you to create it at $49,000 a year, while I also bought the cellar, trained the floor, managed inventory, and covered service. You agreed to that salary. I agreed because every time I asked about authority or compensation, you said we'd discuss it when the restaurant was stable. It hasn't been stable. You're serving 48 people a $900 dinner, which is one night. And somehow the night becomes proof that everything is too fragile to change. He rubs his hands together against the cold. For the first time, I notice they're trembling. Not much. Daniel would never allow much. I have payroll in 9 days, he says. The boiler loan resets in October. Our linen contract increased 11%. This dinner has to show Everett that Bellwether is a disciplined operation, not a collection of talented people protecting their territories. You mean Celia and me. I mean everyone. You didn't fire everyone. No, I fired the person who looked at the restaurant's circumstances and decided her professional purity mattered more. The words find their mark because some part of me has been afraid of exactly that. Wine is expensive. Critics are courted. Investors attach strings and call them partnerships. Maybe adulthood is choosing which compromises get clean glassware. Then I picture the Cabernet beside the duck. I picture Daniel introducing Adrian while my name disappears from the room. My professional judgment is what you've been selling, I say. You don't get to call it purity when I use it. The kitchen door opens again. Celia leans out. Daniel, your investor is early. His entire posture changes, shoulders down, face open, host. He turns toward the door, then back to me. Do not contact Lydia Chen. I haven't. Or Everett. I don't have his number. Do not post about this. I'm packing books, Dad. Something flickers in his face at the word. He lowers his voice. If you stay available tonight, I can talk to Marlene about 4 weeks of severance. Send the offer in writing. Can we behave like family for 10 minutes? Family is why you think you can fire me publicly and hire me back privately. Celia pushes the door wider. Daniel. He goes inside. I carry the box to my car. By 6, I've packed my kitchen except for one pan, one mug, and a bottle of cheap sparkling wine someone brought to a staff party 2 summers ago. By 6:30, the dahlias are arranged, and the station clock glows above arriving town cars. From my front window, I watch Daniel greet Lydia Chen beneath the awning. I recognize her from her photograph, though she is smaller in person and wears white sneakers with her dark suit. Daniel reaches for her coat. She says something that makes him laugh. He turns slightly, presenting Bellwether through the windows as if he has lifted the whole building onto his palm. Everett Sloan arrives 2 cars later with his wife, Meredith. She is carrying a bottle bag. I laugh once into my empty kitchen. Of course she is. At 6:48, a message appears from Adrian. I'm sorry to contact you. Daniel says the Herman Reserve should be open now. Your notes specify after course 1. Is that intentional? It is a fair question. Old Riesling can need air, but the Herman bottle opens quickly and loses its edge after an hour. I tested it twice. I type a reply. My employment ended at 2:57. Service notes were provided to management. I stare at it. Then I send it. Adrian answers almost immediately. Understood. No guilt. No argument. Somehow that makes holding the line worse. I heat canned soup and sit on the floor because my chairs are already stacked by the door. Below me, muted through brick and old timber, the restaurant begins its nightly rhythm. The kitchen door bangs. The freight lift hums. A burst of laughter rises from the platform side of the dining room. At 7:20, the first course should be landing. Cured lake trout, pickled gooseberry, rye crisp. The Gruner will be cold enough if Theo put it where I showed him. At 7:50, they'll pour the Herman Riesling with celery root custard and brown butter. At 8:15, Daniel will discover whether Adrian believed my notes. My phone stays silent. I should feel triumphant that they need me. Instead, I feel like I have locked myself outside during a storm. At 8:32, an email arrives from Daniel. Effective immediately, all external communications regarding Bellwether's wine program must be directed through ownership. Former staff are not authorized to represent the restaurant. He has copied Marlene, Celia, Adrian, Theo, and Everett Sloan. He is no longer containing a disagreement. He is creating a version. I open a new folder on my laptop and name it Bellwether Separation. I save the email. Then I add my termination confirmation, the payroll exchange, the pairing drafts, and every message Daniel sent about Pilgrim's Gate. At 8:40, Leah forwards the Herman invoice and the allocation email. For your records, she writes. No commentary needed. I save those too. The floor beneath me vibrates as the freight lift descends. A minute later, someone pounds on my door. It's Adrian. He's still in his charcoal suit, but his tie is gone and there is sweat at his temples. In one hand, he holds a corked bottle of Herman Riesling. In the other, he holds the unopened reserve Theo kept back. He doesn't ask me to save the dinner. He holds out the corked bottle. I thought you should know, he says. Your captain paid attention. Behind him, the service bell rings twice. The reserve is sound? I ask. I haven't opened it. Then why are you upstairs? His mouth forms a tired, humorless smile. Because Daniel told the room I selected the Riesling. I corrected him. The service bell rings again. And? I ask. And now he wants to pour the Pilgrim's Gate with the duck and call the entire progression mine. I look at the bottle in Adrian's hand. What did you tell him? That I don't put my name on other people's work. For the first time all evening, I understand that my father did not hire a replacement. He hired a witness. You should go back downstairs, I say. Adrian glances at the reserve bottle in his hand. You're not going to tell me when to open this. No? Good. Is it? No, but it's clear. He returns the corked bottle to me. The wine inside is worth more than my desk, and now it smells like wet newspaper. I set it on the kitchen counter. Adrian reaches the stairs, then pauses. For the record, I advised Daniel not to fire you. You met me this morning. I met him last week. The service bell rings a fourth time. He looks down the stairwell. If I walk, your staff carries the room alone. They can carry it. I agree. But your father will blame you for that too. He'll blame me if the lake freezes. Does it? Not enough to satisfy him. He gives me a small salute with the bottle and disappears down the stairs. I close my door, but the apartment no longer feels separate from Bellwether. Every pipe carries some piece of service. Water rushes when the dish station drains. The vent above my stove smells faintly of brown butter. Footsteps move beneath me in fast, controlled lines. I pour the canned soup down the sink. It has formed a skin. At 8:53, Theo sends me one message. Reserve clean. Course landed. I don't answer. He doesn't need praise for doing his job, and I don't want Daniel finding my name in the middle of service traffic. 9 minutes later, another message arrives. This one from Marlene. Daniel asked me to prepare a 4-week severance agreement. It includes confidentiality and non-disparagement language. I'll send when drafted. I type, does it include payment of accrued leave? Her reply takes less than a minute. That is separate compensation already owed. I save that too. Below me, applause rises briefly from the private alcove. Daniel sometimes encourages guests to recognize Celia after the third course, especially when there are investors in the room. He always makes it sound spontaneous. The cider course follows. Roasted squash, bitter greens, hazelnut, the volatile bottle poured short and not too cold. I know it has gone well when the kitchen door bangs only once during the reset. A bad course makes everyone slam something. I'm wrapping my mother's framed photograph in a dish towel when Theo knocks. He shouldn't be upstairs. What happened? I ask. Nothing. Bathroom break. The bathroom is downstairs. I wanted altitude. He steps inside and shuts the door. His face is flushed from the dining room, and his collar is damp. How's the room? Chen is quiet. That can mean anything. She ate all the celery root custard. That means she was hungry. She asked to see the Riesling bottle. My hands stop on the towel. Why? Label condition, fill level. She noticed the age. Did Daniel, Adrian told her you sourced it before Daniel could tell her Queen Victoria dug it out of the cellar. Despite everything, I smile. Theo points at me. Keep that face. Your other one is alarming. What other one? The one where you look like you're mentally setting place cards on fire. I'm fine. You're packing your dead mother's photograph during the biggest service of your career. Former career, see? Alarming. The service bell sounds below. Theo moves toward the door. Why did you really come up? I ask. He turns. Daniel told staff that any direct contact with you tonight will be treated as insubordination. I look at his phone. I left the staff chat, he says. This is my personal phone and I am urinating. For 6 minutes? I'm thorough. Theo. He loses the joke. He's scared. He should be busy. He's doing both. What changed? Meredith Sloan didn't like the Cabernet. She tasted it? She arrived with a bottle of her estate library vintage. She thought the dinner would be a chance to show it to Celia and Adrian afterward. Daniel thanked her in front of Chen for making tonight's 5th course possible. I sit on the arm of the sofa. Theo continues. Meredith said, "Oh, I hope not." That's almost funny. It was extremely funny if you weren't holding a tray. Everett expected placement. He expected Daniel to be receptive. I don't think he expected a parade. The service bell rings again, longer this time. Theo opens the door. I have to go. The 5th course? 10 minutes. Is Daniel still pouring Pilgrim's Gate? Yes. Then why are you here? Because if this goes badly, I wanted you to know it wasn't because we forgot what you taught us. He leaves before I can decide whether to forgive him for saying exactly the right thing twice in one day. I carry another box to the metal stairs. Halfway down, I hear Daniel in the freight corridor. Not a subject for the dining room. Adrian answers. It became a subject when you credited me. Their voices are around the bend, near the dry storage door. I introduced you as consulting sommelier. You said I selected the Riesling. You approved the progression. I approved Nora's progression. Then you changed it. You are being paid to support this restaurant. I'm being paid for my judgment. So was she. The corridor goes quiet. I could step around the corner. Part of me wants to watch Daniel discover that this sentence works when anyone says it. Instead, I climb back upstairs. If he sees me, he'll decide I arranged the confrontation. If he doesn't see me, he may decide that anyway, but at least I won't have helped. The duck leaves the kitchen at 9:37. I know because the floor changes beneath me. 48 plates moving through an old building have weight. The servers cross the dining room, separate and stop. I picture the course without trying. Smoked duck breast sliced into 5 even pieces, sour cherry beneath, 1 charred radicchio leaf leaning into the sauce. Pilgrim's Gate poured to the widest point of the glass because Daniel believes generosity can fix structure. Nothing rises through the floor for several minutes. Then someone comes up the stairs fast. Daniel opens my door without knocking. Did you leave an original packet at the service station? I'm still holding the tape gun. I left the packet in my hand when you fired me. You placed it on the console. You picked it up. There was another copy. There were 18. They were collected. Apparently, there were 17. His shirt collar is open. The red marker is gone from his pocket, but a faint streak remains on the white fabric. You printed your name on the service materials, he says. I wrote the service materials. That was not an authorized credit. It was on every draft you received. I don't read printer notes. It's a credit line on the final page. You knew Lydia would see it. The packets were internal. You decided to put one at her place because you wanted her to see the technical detail. He looks at the half-packed room, searching for the mechanism behind his humiliation. A call I made, a trap I set, something he can remove. What happened? I ask. His face closes. Come downstairs. Why? She asked about you. The words enter quietly and strike harder than his firing did. What did you tell her? That you were no longer with the restaurant. Did she ask why? I'm not discussing a guest with former staff. Then why are you here? Because she wants clarification about the pairing authorship, and this needs to be contained. Clarification from me? From all of us. Together. You want me to stand beside you while you explain why you fired the person whose name is on the dinner. I want you to avoid damaging Bellwether over a family dispute. You made it a workplace dispute in front of 42 employees. He takes a step into the apartment. 4 weeks severance. Accrued leave. I'll extend the apartment through the end of next month. You come downstairs, say the transition was planned, and confirm Adrian collaborated on the pairings. No. 6 weeks. You can't buy a lie with rent. Everything is a slogan with you tonight. Because the longer version never survives you. His mouth opens, then closes. Downstairs, glass breaks. Neither of us moves. Daniel's voice drops. Everett is reconsidering the structure of his investment. Because of me? Because he sees disorder. You fired your beverage director at 2:57. That was the disorder. You forced my hand. What was I going to do? Stand over the duck and announce that the wine was yours? You told Celia you would not serve the table. I said I wouldn't present it as my pairing. Semantics. Authorship. The distinction hangs between us, small enough to mock and large enough to lose a daughter over. He turns toward the stairs. Do not come down. You just told me to. I've reconsidered. There is my father's real talent. He can adapt before the wound finishes opening. He leaves the door ajar. Theo tells me the rest later, but I can see it as clearly as if I had been standing at table 12. Lydia Chen took one sip of the Cabernet and set down her glass. She asked Adrian why the wine differed from the pairing listed in the advance materials sent 3 days earlier. Daniel answered before Adrian could. He said the team had made a late refinement to better express Bellwether's future. Meredith Sloan looked at her plate. Adrian said, "This wasn't my refinement." Daniel tried to move the conversation toward the duck, describing Celia's 3-day cure and the local cherry grower. Lydia touched the cream packet beside her plate. Then whose was it? Theo had placed the original packet there during setup, before Daniel ordered the reprints. He had forgotten it was original because the first 5 pages looked identical. Adrian took the packet, unfolded the first third, then the second. Daniel reached toward him, too late and too visibly. Adrian unfolded one final page. At the bottom, beneath the decanting schedule and pour counts, were the words Daniel had missed: pairing concept, cellar selection, and service design, Nora Bell. Lydia looked past Adrian at my father and asked one question: "Who is Nora Bell?" No one answered immediately. Then Celia, standing at the kitchen doors in her white coat, said, "The woman who designed the dinner. By 11:30, the last guests are gone. I wait until the loading platform goes quiet before carrying down my final box. At the bottom of the stairs, Lydia Chen is standing beneath the station clock. Daniel is beside her. So is Everett." My father looks at the box in my arms, then at Lydia, and understands that the version he built upstairs has arrived in the room before I have said a word. Lydia holds out her hand. "Nora Bell?" "Yes." "I'd like to speak with you about tonight's pairings." Daniel interrupts. "Ms. Chen, as I explained, Nora is in the middle of a difficult transition." Lydia keeps her eyes on me. "Tomorrow would be fine." "I'll answer factual questions," I say. Everett shifts his weight. "It might be better if communications went through the restaurant." "It might," Lydia says, "for the restaurant." Daniel looks at me. The warning is familiar, polished, almost gentle. I set my box on the floor so I can shake Lydia's hand. "Tomorrow," I say. She gives me her card. My father watches me put it beside the brass bone folder. Daniel waits until Lydia and Everett have walked through the front doors. "What are you going to tell her?" "The truth." "Whose truth?" I pick up the box. "That question is how you got here." He steps in front of the freight stairs. The dining room behind him looks used in the most expensive possible way. Lipstick marks on water glasses, crumbs on linen, dahlias beginning to loosen in their bowls. "If you discuss internal financial matters," she asked about wine. She writes about restaurants. Everything becomes part of the story. Then you should have behaved like everything could become part of the story. Celia is at the kitchen pass, eating a piece of cold duck with her fingers. She does not look at us. Daniel lowers his voice. "I am trying to keep 60 people employed, and I was one of them this afternoon. You can still be." Celia stops chewing. I shift the box against my hip. "What does that mean? We need to talk after everyone has slept. Am I fired?" His eyes flick toward Celia, then back to me. "Yes." "Then get out of my way." He does. Upstairs, I place Lydia's card on my empty kitchen counter. The corked Herman bottle is still there. I pour it down the sink and rinse the bottle, though I don't know why. Habit, maybe. Respect for what it was supposed to be. My phone shows 14 messages. 2 are from people asking if I'm all right. 3 are from staff who say they're sorry and nothing else. Careful messages from people with rent of their own. Adrian sent a copy of his revised invoice with the final line item highlighted. Authorship correction during service. No charge. The rest are from Daniel. The last says, "Please don't answer Chen until we speak." I turn the phone face down and sleep on the sofa beneath my coat. Lydia chooses a diner 20 miles north, outside Bellwether's orbit. She arrives at 9 the next morning with a notebook, a small recorder, and the expression of someone who has already eaten breakfast somewhere better. "I want to be clear," she says after the waitress pours coffee. "I'm not writing a labor investigation." I understand. "I'm reviewing a dinner. Your name was on its technical materials. The owner attributed decisions to someone else. That makes authorship relevant." I understand that too. She switches on the recorder with my permission. Her questions are narrow. When did I begin designing the progression? Who selected each bottle? Which pairings changed and when? Who approved the advanced materials she received? I answer with dates. I show her the drafts on my laptop, Daniel's comments, Celia's menu changes, the Herman invoice, and the message about Pilgrim's Gate. I do not tell her Daniel is controlling. I show her the note where he wrote, "Sloan expects placement." "Did Everett Sloan ask you directly to pour his wife's wine?" she asks. "No." "Did Meredith?" "No." "Did you taste it with the food?" 3 times, once with an earlier version of the duck. And your objection was, "The wine had too much oak, alcohol, and ripe fruit for the smoke and bitter greens. The sour cherry made it feel sweeter. It was a good wine in the wrong conversation." Lydia looks up from her notes. That sounded practiced. I had to explain it to my father several times. The corner of her mouth moves. Why was Adrian Voss credited during service? You'd have to ask Daniel. I did. What did he say? That Bellwether's program is collaborative. The waitress returns with our food. Lydia ordered eggs. I ordered toast because it was the cheapest thing on the menu and immediately regret making a decision she might interpret. She spreads hot sauce across her eggs. Was it collaborative? Yes. That makes her pause. Celia created the food, I say. Theo tested poor timing with me. Mina adjusted the dessert after we tasted the late harvest wine. Cassie found a bad stem in the new glassware shipment. Adrian caught a decanting error in the first draft. Collaboration isn't the problem. What is? Using the word to hide whose decision you're selling. Lydia writes that down, which makes me wish I had phrased it less neatly. I'm not asking you to settle a family argument in print, I say. Good. I charge more for therapy. I laugh before I can stop myself. She closes the notebook after 40 minutes. One final question. Did you place the credited packet at my seat after your termination? No, I left the room before the table was set. The captain confirmed that. Then why ask me? Because records tell me what happened. Answers tell me how people handle being asked. Outside the diner, she shakes my hand again. I can't tell you what the review will say or when it will run. I know. And if Daniel contacts me with relevant documentation, I'll consider it. He should. She studies me for a second, perhaps looking for sarcasm. There isn't any. Bellwether did good work. So did my father. The worst thing he did was depend on that truth to cover the rest. By noon, Marlene sends the proposed severance agreement. 6 weeks' salary, the apartment through the end of the following month, and payment of accrued leave in exchange for confidentiality, non-disparagement, release of all wage claims, and my agreement not to contact Bellwether's vendors or staff for a year. The vendor clause would make it nearly impossible for me to work in wine anywhere nearby. I mark it in red. I remove the confidentiality section because it defines pairing drafts and allocation histories as proprietary, which would prevent me from proving my own work. I narrow non-disparagement to knowingly false statements by either party. I strike the vendor restriction entirely. I add mutual authorship credit for the Chen dinner and written confirmation that I may use the pairing materials in my professional portfolio. Then I attach 11 months of schedules showing the private events Daniel had promised I could take as compensatory time, but never allowed me to take. I calculate the hours without adding a penalty or a threat. Marlene replies, "I'll review." Daniel replies, "This is hostile." I answer, "It is a counteroffer." He calls once. I let it go to voicemail. "Nora," he says in the recording, "you are negotiating with your father as if I'm a stranger." I listen twice before deleting it. By Friday, my apartment is empty. Theo and Marcus arrive with a borrowed cargo van. Marcus is broad, gentle, and offended by the way I labeled my boxes. Glassware. Not valuable is emotionally confusing, he says. It means don't worry if it breaks. All glassware is valuable to someone, not those glasses. He lifts the box carefully anyway. Daniel stays downstairs while we move. I know because I hear his voice greeting lunch guests. At the bottom of the final trip, I leave my apartment key on the service console beside the reprinted pairing packet. The packet has no credit line at all. Theo sees me looking at it. He had every copy replaced. Apparently, not every copy. That one page is making him insane. No, the page is paper. Theo slides my key into an envelope for Marlene. You know what I mean? I do. At Marcus and Theo's house, the guest room is half bed, half exercise machine. Marcus has draped shirts over the machine in a way that suggests it has not exercised anyone in years. His lentil soup tastes exactly like hot gravel. I eat 2 bowls. Losing Bellwether is less dramatic on the second day. It becomes administrative. I change my mailing address. I price health insurance. I cancel the automatic transfer to the savings account I had labeled Someday. I apply to beverage director jobs and discover that most nearby restaurants want a manager, buyer, floor sommelier, event coordinator, and social media producer for less than Bellwether paid me. One owner invites me to interview, spends an hour praising the Critic's dinner, then says he doesn't want to become involved in a family situation. Then why did you invite me? I ask. I wanted to hear your side. You could have bought coffee for that. He doesn't call again. Leah introduces me to the managers of 2 independent inns that share a wine storage facility, but not ownership. Caldera House needs someone to rebuild a bloated list. Stone and Field need staff training and seasonal pairings. Together they can offer 32 hours a week, no apartment, and less money than Daniel's revised severance offer would pay me to stay quiet. I meet them in their storage room where burgundy is stacked beside cleaning supplies and someone has labeled a rack good red. This is upsetting you, the Caldera manager says. It's giving me purpose. They ask for a proposal. I charge for preparing it. Adrian reads my first draft and sends it back with one comment. Double your training rate. They will negotiate you down and you need to eat. I increase it by 30%. They negotiate 10. It is not a grand new beginning. It is 12 spreadsheets, 2 tastings, and a Tuesday spent peeling old price stickers off shelves. I love it. At Bellwether, Everett Sloan begins what he calls an operational review. Daniel tells everyone it was already planned. It wasn't, but the staff answer Everett's questions without adjectives. Theo provides the floor schedules and training logs. Celia provides the menu development emails. Leah provides the invoices. Adrian submits a 2-page summary stating that he was engaged as a consultant, did not originate the dinner, and corrected the record after Daniel attributed Nora Bell's selections to him. Meredith sends one sentence through Everett. Pilgrim's Gate did not request exclusive placement and will not participate in undisclosed promotional pairings. Daniel stops calling it a misunderstanding. The review reaches my inbox on a rainy Thursday morning. While I'm standing in Caldera's storage room counting bottles of Beaujolais, Lydia praises Celia's food first. She describes the trout, the custard, the duck, and Mina's apple dessert with enough precision that I can feel the dining room under my shoes. Then she writes about the wines. She names me, not in a correction at the bottom, not as a former employee. She identifies the pairing program as my work, supported by Bellwether's staff and briefly obscured by a last-minute substitution. She calls the Herman Riesling and celery root course the dinner's clearest expression of place. She says the Pilgrim's Gate Cabernet overwhelmed the duck and appeared motivated by business considerations rather than taste. There is one sentence about the packet Adrian unfolded. The printed credit proved more candid than the owner. I sit on an overturned milk crate and read that line until the screen dims. Leah calls. I answer because I know she will keep calling if I don't. Don't say I told you so, I say. I wasn't going to. You were inhaling to do it. I was inhaling to say the Caldera list still has a supermarket Pinot Grigio at $68. It won't by Friday. Are you okay? No? Good no or bad no? I don't know yet. That's usually good. By dinner, Bellwether's reservations are full for 3 weeks. The restaurant does not fail. Lydia's praise is too strong for that, but every reservation carries my name into a room Daniel tried to remove it from. Everett proceeds with a smaller investment and conditions it on monthly financial reporting, independent department budgets, and written authority for the next beverage director. Pilgrim's Gate gets no guaranteed placement. Daniel keeps his restaurant, but he no longer gets to describe control as discipline without someone checking the numbers. He accepts my counteroffer after removing 2 weeks of severance. I accept after he adds payment for the documented event hours and restores mutual authorship language. Marlene sends the final agreement with a note. This is the first time I've seen both of you read the same document. I sign it at Marcus's dining table. Daniel signs the following morning. The money covers the move, insurance, and enough time for the inn work to grow. It doesn't compensate for 11 months of being treated like a temporary solution. Money rarely has that kind of imagination. Daniel asks to meet at Bellwether after lunch. The briefing board has been cleaned. My name is gone without a scar, though a faint pink haze remains if the light catches it sideways. He has prepared an offer. $72,000. Full benefits. Beverage director, reporting directly to ownership. Written control over purchasing, staff education, and pairing design within an annual budget. An attribution policy for special dinners. A month ago, I would have accepted before he finished sliding the pages across the table. This is a real job, I say. It was always a real job. No, it was real work. He looks tired, not ruined, not humbled into a different person, just older than he looked the afternoon he fired me. Everett wants a qualified department head in place before the next funding release. So you need me. I'm offering what you asked for. You're offering it because someone checking the numbers requires it. Does the reason change the salary? It changes what happens the next time the restaurant is scared. He leans back. What do you want, Nora? I want you to understand why I'm saying no. His fingers flatten on the offer. You haven't said it yet. No. The word leaves more gently than I expected. He looks toward the windows where a freight train is moving beyond the platform. Is this punishment? No. It feels like it. That doesn't make it mine. For a while, neither of us speaks. Finally, I ask the question that has stayed with me since the red marker crossed the board. You looked relieved when you fired me. Why? Daniel rubs the faint ridge on his wedding ring. Because the argument stopped, he says. It didn't. For me, it did. For about 10 seconds, there was nothing left to decide. You were gone. The wine was chosen. Everett would be pleased. Service would continue. He gives a short, embarrassed laugh. I have spent 20 years making every problem smaller before the guests can see it. You kept becoming larger. I was doing the job. I know. It is the first clean admission he has given me, and it arrives too late to be useful. He pushes the offer closer anyway. Take it home. I have a home with an exercise machine and terrible soup. I'm serious. So am I. His hand remains on the paper. Your mother wanted you here. My mother wanted my work to matter. It matters here. Only after the critic asked who did it. He looks at the pink shadow on the briefing board. I don't know how to fix this, he says. The old reflex rises in me. Give him steps, dates, language, a system he can follow. I let the silence remain unsolved. You can start by hiring someone qualified, I say. Pay them what the job costs, and when they disagree with you, don't call it instability. He nods once. I leave the offer on the table. Caldera and Stone and Field expand my contract before harvest. The title is Modest Beverage Program Consultant, but the authority is clear and the invoices get paid. We cut 71 weak bottles, add 12 local producers, and train servers to describe wine without reciting fruit salad. For the first public dinner, I build 5 pairings around smoke, salt, and late-season apples. Mina agrees to create dessert as a paid guest, and Adrian comes early to help inspect glasses, charging me exactly nothing after making me promise not to make a habit of it. Daniel buys 1 seat. He arrives alone, wearing the dark suit he uses for serious guests. I place him at table 6, not hidden and not honored. When I pour his third course, he tastes the wine before looking at the printed sheet. "This is better than the Cabernet Franc," he says. "It's different." "You always say that when you mean I'm wrong." "Tonight, I mean it's different." He nods and drinks again. After service, I find his empty glass and a clean plate. He has left no note. The room settles around me as staff finish resetting for breakfast. On the service console is the last cream-colored pairing sheet. I place my mother's brass bone folder against the paper and draw it firmly down the first crease, then the second. The folds land sharp and even. When I turn the sheet over, my name is printed on the front.